little clarity that how this SharePoint is going to be used by the enterprise or a company to perform their own collaborative job, right? So it means that you are sitting somewhere outside or you are too far from my geography. And if I want to share some document with you, maybe I can choose SharePoint. Am I right?
Mhm.
Right. So this is what exactly make the SharePoint indispensable for every organization. Right. So let's take ourselves, we as an organization, what we do here. So for an example, here I am, and here my colleague. Maybe I can say John, who is my colleague. Now let's say for an example, I am working on a very specific document, maybe a proposal or some critical document. So I want that this specific document to share with Mr. John so that John can read the document. John can also give some kind of comment or maybe edit the document. But my problem that I am sitting in India, John is sitting in Australia. I hope you understand the challenge.
Yep.
Yep. So it means that we both are sitting in a totally separate geographic area. So my challenge that how I can share this document with John and how the John is going to work on this document, send the document back to me. True, no? So this is real challenge that in a today's world, it's a collaborative world. It means that not necessary everyone sitting in a same location in a same office area. In a lockdown scenario, it's even more important, right? So what the way I have, look what I did. I write an email to John. Hey, Mr. John, this is a document. And then I attach the document. Right? Now the John received this email. John, once he received the email, he opened the attachment. True, no? This is how exactly we work. And then he modified the document. Once the John complete the modification, again John send the email back to me. Wow. So it means that still in a company, if we do not use any kind of an document management system, document versioning system, this is how we used to work. We send an email, we upload the document to some other drive like a Google Drive, and we can ask the concerned person to download the document, work on
Mhm.
that, and upload that. Right?
Mhm.
Now, what will happen if, let's say, for an example, I want to share the same document with you, Monique. So, for an example, you are sitting in a USA, and I want to share this document with you. The document which is shared with me by John, I need your input. So, what the way I have? I again have a same way, right? I am going to say, hey, Monique, this is a document you have. I am sending you via email. I request look upon this document, give me your comment. And now you again open attachment, work on the document, and then you send back to me, right? So this exactly a scenario where we need some kind of a tool which help me to number one, control this whole flow of document management. So here, what exactly I'm looking at? I want some place where I can store my document. Right now,
Mhm.
this might be a place where I can store my document. What is the second way? Second thing I am looking for, that I must have a way to share this document. What is the third way? Whenever the document gets changed, so when John modify and when Monique you modify, I want all this modification also get recorded, right? So I want that every time when the document get modify, we need a next version of the document. So it means that there must be a copy of the document need to be maintained. So what are three things I exactly looking for? I looking for some tool or service which help me to perform all this part where I can store my document, share the document, and every time when someone change the document, modify the document, it must maintain the version. And also what I want that if someone who is not entitled for, so let's say I have another colleague, but that colleague exactly not required to access this document. So maybe you have another friend, another colleague who is sitting somewhere else, might be Mr. Lee. Now, Mr. Lee, when he tried to access this document, this access should not be granted to them because Lee is not a concerned party here. So apart from storing my document, how to share my document, how I am going to maintain the versioning of my document, apart from that, I also look my document should be protected from any kind of an unauthorized access. True, na? Because the document is very sensitive for me. I'm looking for protection against unauthorized access. So basically the feature which I am looking for my company, where I can manage the document. I am looking for a feature called document management system, which we generally call that as DMS. Hope it is clear so far.
Yes, it is.
Exact. But let's say for an example, Monique, you are belong to an HR department. And what you are exactly looking for? You are not looking for any kind of a document management system. You are looking for some kind of a portal. In that portal, you want your employee, all the HR, all the employee within a company to understand what the next event which is coming to. Or maybe I as an employee, I can see that who is next birthday. So here my requirement is totally different from the document management system. What I am looking for, I'm looking for some kind of an intranet where, where I am going to inform all my employee about company, you can say any events, maybe any achievement or any important message from the top leadership. All this. I want here that whenever anyone have a birthday, the birthday also need to be announced here. All this. It means that I am looking for something which is more ever information portal rather than a document management system. So one department within your organization maybe look for this feature. One organization in your in your same company, may they look something different feature. I might be, I might be not interested either in an intranet portal or maybe in a document management system. I am looking for something else. Maybe I want to publish different kind of blogs. So let's say, for example, in this pandemic, I am a department head, I am a general manager. So I want to give some kind of information to my team who work under me. What is this coronavirus? How in this coronavirus, in this pandemic time, my team is going to work from home. What is work from home policy for my team? How this, how we can achieve our next target, which is coming in the next quarter. What should be, we should do as a team to perform that. So I mean to say, I, I do not require either a DMS, I do not require either an intranet portal, I do not require a blog. Maybe I require something pretty fancy. Wow. I require this fashion or online retail shop. I'm not looking for anything for my intranet. I am looking for something which is outside of my calendar, where I am going to showcase my product, where I want to showcase something which is meaningful for my own department or maybe whole company. So it means that everything, whatever we think from here, this might be a requirement of a different stakeholder within our company. Someone may look for a feature which can be, how we can go ahead and manage my document, share my document, co-author my document. Someone might have a totally different meaning, how they can work on intranet portal, where a different kind of events need to be organized. My CEO want to give a message. That message I need to publish. I have a birthday of my employee. Every employee birthday need to be listed so that people should congratulate them. Someone became employee of the month. That employee of the month announcement I need to make. For that, I need an intranet portal. While my other team say that I want to write a blog on some important topic which can belongs to my team, topic which can belong to something which is happening nowadays, like a coronavirus. Or maybe someone look for this kind of a fancy portal. Everyone have a different expectation. The moment we talked about how we can go and facilitate the all services within a single product. So it means that the moment we say a SharePoint, there is more than what we generally expect from that. It has so many features. It has so many own module. Each module is going to help to perform a certain task in more control, in more automation manner. So when we say a SharePoint means it is a collaborative platform which give you a feature for manage your document, manage your information, display your information, collaborate with someone who might be outside your organization as well. So SharePoint play a pretty critical role here. So when we say SharePoint, it is evolved around a variety of feature, variety of services. Depending upon organization to organization, they may turn on one feature, they may turn on two feature. Some organization may configure multiple feature within a SharePoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what the SharePoint exactly make for. But when we say a SharePoint is not a lone service. It means that I am a SharePoint administrator. I not only need to understand what the SharePoint as an application, we also need to understand what is the underlying or the ecosystem which make this complete SharePoint to work. If there is fault in any of the ecosystem, I might run into a problem, right? So when we talked about a SharePoint, we have to also understand that what the ecosystem which makes the SharePoint. So very first thing which you as an SharePoint consultant, administrator need to understand when we talked about SharePoint, where the SharePoint going to deploy at all. So SharePoint definitely need to install within a server. It is not something which we can install on my Windows 10 laptop or maybe a Mac laptop. What we have? We have something which is called a server. Now server, the very first basic component, we again have to understand which called an operating system. Correct now? So what is the first thing we have to understand and we need to manage? We called it as an operating system, and it essentially going to use a Windows server. Maybe I am using a Windows server, maybe 2016 version. maybe 2019 version, maybe the older version. So first thing which we have to manage or understand to manage the server component itself. Second, where this SharePoint, when we installed here on this particular server on top of operating system, this SharePoint is going to store all your information regarding your document, information regarding all this information. So every information is stored by the SharePoint into another kind of a server, another kind of a service, which we called as SQL. So first server, then operating system, and then SharePoint. Then how this SharePoint is going to store the information? SharePoint going to store the information on a database. Database again might need to install on a server too, or maybe a different server. Again in a server too, same component. What is the first one? Operating system. What is the second one? Your SQL application. So if I see here I have an application called SharePoint, but it used in a background another application which is called SQL Server. It means that if we face a challenge in SQL, we might have challenge in SharePoint. Correct now,
Mhm.
Monica?
Mhm.
Right. So it means that when you handling SharePoint, you have to also understand this underlying component to make the SharePoint a best experience for the user, because end of the day it is used by the user, right? Now within your company,
Right.
right? So if I as a user, if I face that whenever I click a SharePoint site, it is going to take, let's say, a 2 to 3 minutes to launch, my experience go bad. So it means that you being a SharePoint expert, you need to provide the service to your user which is fine, which is pleasant. They must feel that it is pretty good. When they click, everything is open. Possibly that the communication between your SharePoint and your SQL server may have a challenge, and because of that, the user experience is not good. The third component, which is used by the SharePoint, and that again is a separate service which might installed again in a separate server. It can be a server 3, where I am going to install a service called Active Directory. Correct, huh? So what you have? You have three important components. Number one, SharePoint itself, but SharePoint going to use in a background your SQL server. Another component which is going to use is called Active Directory, where it has all the user or all your employee detail is going to be stored. All right. So
Mhm.
this is what exactly makes the SharePoint. Now let me ask a question to you. How much you comfortable handling or maybe working with a Windows operating system? I'm sure you must be using Windows for your personal purpose as well.
Yeah, I've used Windows all my life.
That's wonderful. So same Windows, only it has a server component. Second, uh, is there any exposure and experience you have to work on a database like a SQL Server?
Ah, very, 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 very limited.
That's wonderful. No problem. All right. And how about the Active Directory?
I had no idea.
No idea. That's wonderful. So let's, before moving further, I give you some exposure on Active Directory because Active Directory is the service which make your SharePoint run. If this service down, your SharePoint down. Active Directory is going to host all your information regarding your company. All right.
Mhm.
So I am going to take you to my lab. Let me to hold on for a moment. I'm not sure if you are able to see my screen.
I can see it.
See that? All wonderful. Let me to see how I can give you a rights information. But for a practice, you need to install SharePoint, right? Can you click your mouse? Yeah, you are in control. Wonderful. Uh, can you click on start button? Perfect now. You get something called a server manager. Yes, that's wonderful. Hit that one. Perfect now. Just make it a full screen if possible. All right. So this is basically a tool which used to manage your Windows server. All the feature of Windows server. This is a single console through which you can handle all your server component like DNS, DSCP, so on, so on, so on. Right now, we try to understand that how this SharePoint is going to use a service called Active Directory. Go to the tool menu now. On the right hand side top, yes, hit that one. All right, very wonderful. You see a fifth number, there is something called Active Directory user and computer. Yes, pretty fine. Just make it a full screen. All perfect now. Now here you see something called spsdemo.com. It might looks, yes. So what this spsdemo.com, this is basically a boundary within which all our company user or devices work. So if I am working, if I am an employee of a company, let's say for an example, I am employee of a company called Apple. So they must have a domain like apple.com. And being an employee of an Apple, my account, my username must be created here. And whatever the username and password I am using, that username and password is basically controlled by this service, which is called Active Directory Service. Hit that one, it will get expanded now. Just double click the spsdemo.com. All right, so it has been expanded now. There are so many things which we are able to see, just like a folder, right? Correct? You see, there are so many folders: built-in, computer,
Yeah.
domain controller, so on, so on, so on. Let's say, for an example, I want, I have a new department which is called HR department within my company. So how I'm going to represent my HR department in this particular service, which is called Active Directory.